On the world news, more than 40,000 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza, and starvation worsens in Sudan due to war. This is the world news. Good afternoon, thanks for joining us on the world news on Providence Television International. My name is Edna Caesar Garrick, and now the details. Israeli attacks have killed more than 40,000 Palestinians in the Gaza Strip in the 320 days since October 7th. These include almost 17,000 children. That's 2.6% of all children in Gaza who are now dead. At least 53 children have been killed every day since October 7, and 72 men and women are killed in Israeli strikes every single day. At least 10,000 are missing under the rubble, most of them presumed dead. The number of people killed in Gaza would fill up Madison Square Garden twice. Its total capacity in Madison Square is 19,500 people. If 40,000 people were standing tightly next to each other in Paris, the first person would be in Versailles. The line will be 24 kilometers long. If 40,000 people join hands standing apart to form a human chain, they could surround the entire island of Manhattan. It would take an average person walking at 5 kilometers per hour 12 hours to walk from the beginning of that chain to the end. Driving those 60 kilometers would take a sedan car driving at 50 kilometers per hour. 72 minutes to pass the entire line. That's more than an hour of drive time. Of the 40,000 people killed, 18.4% are women and 33% are children. In Gaza's pre-October 7th population of 2 million, almost half were children. Of the more than 40,000 people killed, nearly 17,000 are children. They could fill up 550 classrooms. More than 500 schools were being used as shelter have been targeted by Israel. Most damaged and destroyed. In the 10 months of war, an entire school year has been missed by Palestinian children in Gaza. Authorities said Portugal have received pledges of support from European partners as it battles forest fires that have killed 2 people. About 5,000 firefighters battled 26 fires on Monday, with the country placed on alert from Saturday to Tuesday evening because of high temperatures and strong wind. The string of blaze that broke out over the weekend in the northern Aveiro region has injured 12 firefighters, including 2 seriously, and forced about 70 residents to flee, according to the country's civil protection authority. A 28-year-old Brazilian man who worked for a forestry agency died after being caught in the flames as he tried to retrieve tools, police said. A volunteer firefighter died of an apparent heart attack as he was eating on a break. The fires have burned homes and halted traffic on several motorways. The risk level have varied from very high to highest. Portugal has seen fewer wildfires than usual so far this year. Some 10,300 hectares were lost to the flames by the end of August, a third of what was destroyed last year and 7 times less than the average over the last decade. Lisbon has upped fire prevention funding tenfold and doubled the budget to firefighters since deadly blazes in 2017 killed hundreds of people. Scientists say human-caused fossil fuel emissions are increasing the length, frequency and intensity of global heat waves, raising the risk of wildfire. The Libyan Peninsula is particularly vulnerable to global warming, with heat waves and drought exposing the region to blaze. Starvation in war-taking Sudan is almost everywhere. The World Health Organization said this after visiting the country. 12 million people were already displaced, adding that attention in the global community to Sudan was really low and race was a factor. Thousands of people have been killed since a civil war broke out in April 2023 between Sudan's army and the paramilitary rapid support forces. Dr. Tedros said close to 25 million people, half of Sudan's population, need support. He said he had recently visited a camp for the internally displaced people and a hospital in Sudan. At the time, he elaborated by saying only a fraction of the aid given to Ukraine was given to other humanitarian crises, with Tigray in Ethiopia, Yemen, Afghanistan and Syria not receiving the same treatment. Dr. Tedros urged mainstream media to give more attention to Sudan, describing the situation as a tragedy. In August, a UN-backed committee of experts declared a famine at the camp housing about 500,000 displaced people near the besieged city of El Fasher in Darfur, one of the regions most affected by the conflict. The leader of the Sudan's army, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, and the head of the RSF, Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, had jointly staged a coup in 2021 but then fell out eventually, plunging Sudan into a civil war last year. The United Arab Emirates, UAE, is accused of supporting the RSF with money and guns, which it denies, while Saudi Arabia is said to have close ties with the Sudanese government. Various mediation efforts brokered by Saudi Arabia and the US have failed to end the conflict. If you are just joining us, this is the World News on Providence Television International. Reports say armed men have attacked a military training camp in Mali's capital, Bamako. It described the attack as terrorist. The announcement came after gunfire was heard ringing out in the city early on Tuesday morning. The attackers struck a Jean Devers school near the city's airport, but the situation was now under control. Mali is one of the several West African countries that have been fighting an Islamist insurgency for more than a decade, but it's not clear who is behind the shooting. The military seized power in a coup in 2021, accusing the government of failing to do enough to quell the insurgency. However, 3 years later, there is no sign of the attack ending. Plumes of smoke were seen rising from the city. People heading to mosques for morning prayers had turned back as shots rang out. Away from the foreign scene now, back home, devastating flood in northern western Nigeria have submerged entire residential area, displaced tens of thousands of people, and forced zoo animals to escape in streets. At least 30 people have died in the flood. However, the death toll is likely to rise as authorities are still scrambling to rescue thousands of others feared trapped in their homes. The flood hit Borno State early this week after a dam impounding a regional river burst its banks. The heavy surge of water buried half the state capital, Maiduguri, damaging buildings and infrastructure. Authorities say some 1 million people affected, of which about 200,000 are displaced. Floods are not uncommon in northern Nigeria. However, experts say Maiduguri is seeing its worst flood in 30 years. The affected region is the heart of a 15-year armed rebellion led by Boko Haram that already seen millions of displaced people living in camps, making them particularly vulnerable. Maiduguri also serves as a hub for humanitarian operations. The Alo Dam, located in the Konduga community just a few kilometers outside Maiduguri, burst its banks on Monday after being overwhelmed by heavy rainfall. The dam was built in 1986 to help farmers in Maiduguri with irrigation. In many instances, it also helped control flooding from the Ndaga River, which on occasion gets higher than normal. It flows from water sources that trace back to the massive Lake Chad. At least 7 people have lost their lives to a cholera outbreak in the Yola North local government area of Adamawa State. 71 others have been hospitalized. The National Emergency Management Agency disclosed this today, noting that the cholera outbreak was caused by a recent flood that contaminated the community's drinking water sources. NEMA also disclosed that about 100 people were also under monitoring and observing, noting that there is a collaboration with the state government to implement emergency measures aimed at mitigating the impact of the disease. The Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps Abia State Command has arrested a 64-year-old man, Mr. Nana Michael, in connection with child trafficking in the state during the operation which took place at Abanafo Street, Ariaria. Two women identified as Miss Doris Nelson, 23 years old, from Gombe State, and Miss Ugochukwu Wina, age 21, from Imo State, were rescued from Michael's residence following credible intelligence provided to the command. It was revealed that Miss Nelson, who gave birth on Monday, September 9, 2024, sold her baby the following day, while Miss Wina is currently 7 months pregnant and being held under similar conditions. 4 persons sustained injuries on Monday after a residential apartment collapsed in Rion Local Government Council of Plateau. Residents say the building collapsed after rainfall, which began on Sunday evening and lasted for several hours till the early hours of Monday. There have been several major building collapses in the state in recent months, and stakeholders blame it on a bad workmanship, poor quality materials, and corruption. In July 2022, school children died and at least 132 others were injured after a school building collapsed in the Busa Buji community, just not local government. With that, we've come to the end of the world. But before we go, a recap. We brought you the story from Sudan, which says starvation in war ticking is almost everywhere. The World Health Organization said it's after visiting the country. 12 million people were already displaced, adding that attention in the global community to Sudan was really low and race was a factor. Thousands of people have been killed since a civil war broke out in April 2023 between Sudan's army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. We also told you that authorities said Portugal has received pledges of support from European partners as it battles forest fires that have killed 2 people. About 5,000 firefighters battled 26 fire on Monday, with the country placed on alert from Saturday to Tuesday evening because of high temperatures and strong wind. And finally, Israeli attacks have killed more than 40,000 Palestinians in the Gaza Strip in the 320 days since October 7. These include almost 17,000 children. That's 2.6% of all children in Gaza who are now dead. At least 53 children have been killed every day since October 7, and 72 men and women are killed in Israeli strike every single day. That's our package. Thanks for watching. Edna Cesar Garrick is my name. Good afternoon.